This is attorney Michael Hollins, and I am the owner of Hollins Bankruptcy Law Office, where we practice bankruptcy law. We also deal with credit repair, and in some cases, we deal with mortgage refinance. Today, I would like to answer the question: how do you keep your home when you are filing bankruptcy? But first, if you'd like any information on any of the topics that I mentioned or anything you hear today, please feel free to go on to hollandsbankruptcy.com. There's a lot of good information there, and you can also set up an appointment to talk with me. Free consultations happen on the phone and via Zoom, so you don't have to come into the office. It is actually happens wherever you are at that time. Now, on to my topic. How do you keep your home when filing bankruptcy? Well, the first thing you have to determine when you are dealing with your property is how to protect the equity you have in the property. So the first step is, how much equity do you have in the property? And by that, I mean, how much is the house worth and how much do you owe? If the house is worth more than you owe, then you have equity, or you're said to have equity in the home. However, if you owe more than the house is worth, then you do not have any equity. But for our illustration today, let's say you have equity in your home. Now, every state has exemptions to cover your what we call homestead, or your property that you live in. Rental property would be a separate topic. Today, I'm just focused on your homestead, where you live. And every state has a different amount of an exemption to cover the equity you have. It can be as low as $5,000. It can be upwards to hundreds of thousands in some states out west. For instance, in the state of Tennessee, it is 5,000. In the state of Michigan, it is around 40,000. But even those numbers fluctuate depending on if you're married in Michigan, that number could go up. Or if you're over 65 in Tennessee, that number could go up. So it's very state specific. So once you figure out how much equity you have, then you have to look at what the homestead exemption is in your state and see if the exemption will cover the equity you have in your home. So if you have $5,000 in equity in your home in Tennessee, and the exemption allows you to exempt that $5,000, well, then you are absolutely okay to do that. Now let's talk about Chapter 7 versus Chapter 13 when you have a home and how that plays out. Now, in a Chapter 7, if the exemption does not is not enough to cover the entire amount of the equity you have, then the trustee may look to get or sell the property to get the money out of the property to pay off creditors. And these would be unsecured creditors such as credit cards or medical bills, things along those lines. However, Chapter 13 works very differently. You won't be forced to give up any property in Chapter 13. Instead, you will actually put together a plan, formulate a plan that you can pay the equity in the plan. Of course, if you have significant non-exempt equity, this could get expensive. So you'll have to be able to demonstrate that you have the income to make those payments. So that is the difference between Chapter 7 and Chapter 13 when you have a home. What it comes down to is, if you have a home and you're not behind on your payments and you have the ability to shield the equity in the home, then Chapter 7 is for you. You can do Chapter 7 and get a fresh start. However, if you cannot cover the equity in your home with the exemption in your state, and or you are behind on payments in that particular homestead or the house you live in, again, not rental property, then Chapter 13 is the way to go, is probably the way to go, because it allows you to formulate a plan to pay the arrearages and or to pay for the equity. So again, my name is Michael Hollins. I'm attorney at the Hollins Bankruptcy Law Office. And just let you know also that I have a podcast available on my website. If you go to Hollins Bankruptcy and click podcast, feel free to subscribe. Likewise, feel free to like and subscribe this video, and please share it with anyone that you know may need it. Again, thank you for listening.